And now we get to award one of our special awards. The George W. Bush Institute Citation is awarded annually to recognize a leader or an organization who's made an impact in their community, has inspired others to take action, and to solve today's most pressing problems. The honorees have demonstrated a sustained commitment to a cause. They have become a model by which others are measured. They're passionate, they're value-driven, they're humble servant leaders. They really inspire all of us at the Institute who get to watch them in action. Previous recipients of this award have included Blaine Smith, who is the founder of GoRuck, the team at Liberty in North Korea, and Sakina Yacobi, who is the executive director of the Afghanistan Institute of Learning. The recipient this year is journalist Emily Hanford. Emily has been covering education full-time since about 2008. She soon became interested in reading, how it's taught, what research tells us about how children learn to read. And she realized that many children around the country were not being taught to read the right way, that research-based practices were being ignored, being misunderstood, and that many children around this country struggle to read. Right now, only about 34% of American fourth graders are considered on track at grade level. The so-called reading wars have been debated for decades by policymakers and researchers. It's frustrated many leaders, President Bush and his team included in the White House, who've tried to get research-based practices into our schools. Children were clearly falling behind. But Emily's reporting about reading in print and in some very popular podcasts has helped make this issue loud and clear and accessible for parents, school board members, and educators. Because of her reporting, reading was no longer inside baseball. It was brought into the public square for a broader discussion. She explained the research. She highlighted states like Mississippi who made dramatic improvements to reading scores for all their children when they started to follow research-based practices in a significant statewide effort. She also explained who was benefiting financially by pushing problematic curriculum and training, including an approach that taught kids to do things like guess at words instead of teaching them explicit language skills and comprehension practices. Emily's insightful coverage has helped empower parents and caregivers with information about what works and what doesn't. And we see parents advocating for change on behalf of their kids all over the place. I'm one of those parents. I was a mom in my school district who joined with other moms who used Emily's work to go to meeting after meeting with school board members, district officials, parents, and teachers to explain this issue and ask for change. Emily's reporting was a really critical tool for us to help people understand this. They kind of get your hackles up, right, when you say you're doing something wrong. She really invited people into this knowledge in a way that was meaningful. And I'm very happy to say that our district punted the terrible stuff, and we've got good research-based curriculum instruction now happening for our kids. Many states are now making similar changes. Just backstage, Governor Youngkin was telling us about Virginia passing a law, a literacy act. It's one of many states who've done similar things to help make sure kids have access to the right information. Information is power, and Emily's work has helped to give voice to thousands of kids and families. There's no better person to recognize Emily for her work than our nation's best longtime advocate for reading. She also happens to be a former librarian, a former teacher, and a former First Lady. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Laura Bush to the stage.
Thank you, Ann. Thanks, you all. And welcome, everyone, to the Bush Center. I invite you to all to take a walk during our lunchtime in our native Texas park. It's starting to bloom out there, and it looks great. My role today is to present the George W. Bush Institute Citation to the longtime journalist, Emily Hanford. For more than 2 decades, Emily has worked in public media as a reporter, a producer, an editor, a news director, and a program host. Her 2 award-winning podcasts, Hard Words and Sold a Story, have covered the new research on how children learn to read, elevating this important issue to a national conversation. Emily's extensive coverage on reading has helped inform decision makers, teach educators, empower families, and support students everywhere. As a former teacher and librarian, I know that the most important thing parents and caregivers can do for their children is to read to them. When I was a child, my mother read to me often, and by supporting my love for reading, she fostered my love for learning. In fact, I made it into my career and became a librarian. Research shows that children who are read to from an early age are more likely to begin reading on their own at an early age. There's a long-term benefit linked to their success in school and in life. For many children, though, reading for entertainment has become less common. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the number of American children who say they read for fun is at the lowest level since the mid-1980s, and nearly 70% of students in the 4th and 8th grade now read below grade level, to the lowest levels since the 1990s. These findings are heartbreaking, and for many parents, they're shocking, as most parents believe that their children are doing fine. We must do better for our children. Here at the Bush Institute, we believe that every child deserves a quality education. That's why I'm thrilled to recognize Emily today. Emily's committed to examining the science of reading and how family income and poverty affect educational opportunities. Her research is groundbreaking, and her work will continue to make significant and positive changes in education and literacy, benefiting countless children. So thank you, Emily. Thank you for being with us today, and thanks especially for your sincere and loyal devotion to children. You're a shining example, and I'm honored to recognize your leadership with this citation today. Come on up, Emily. Thank you so much, Emily.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning. All right. There's someone who knows how to respond to a good morning. All right. Thank you so much for this recognition, Mr. and Mrs. Bush. My interest in this topic started with parents who were desperate because their children were not being taught how to read in school. It's a story that is far too common in this country, and it's probably some of your stories. It might be the story of your child. It might be the story of your family. I know it's a story in the Bush that the Bush family is familiar with. This is really personal for so many people, and it really shouldn't be political. We have been arguing about how to teach children to read for such a long time, truly, centuries. Since public schooling began in this country, we were fighting about this. And I think one of the reasons we fought about it is because no one really knew how kids learn to read. But now we really know, right? So over the past 40, 50 years, scientists in labs and classrooms all over the world in all different languages have done thousands of studies, and they have figured out all kinds of things about how reading works and how kids learn to do it and why a lot of kids struggle to learn how to read. So I wish my reporting on this topic wasn't so relevant and revelatory for so many people right now. We should have gotten this right decades ago. We really should have. So thank you, President and Mrs. Bush, for what you have done to bring attention over the years to this critical issue. I really do not think that the changes that are happening now in schools and districts all over this country would be happening if it weren't for Reading First 20 years ago. I think Reading First really set the table. It created a base level of knowledge. There are teachers all over the country who have told me that their lives were absolutely changed by Reading First because they learned how to teach kids to read. And now another generation of teachers is learning what they should have been taught. And I really, really hope that the story will end better this time. I am hoping to do my part as a journalist to make sure that happens. So thank you very much for your dedication to this issue, and thank you so much for this honor. It's truly humbling to be here among all of you. Thank you very, very much.